Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Elder Scrolls fans, I gave you my word. My word is everything. Today, we are giving Elder Scrolls its long overdue attention in a situation that is eerily similar to Fallout. Now, it is no secret here that we've given a lot of time and attention to Fallout's moment of brevity it's currently experiencing in its own franchise, where we have a TV show impending from Amazon, but otherwise, nothing is on the horizon in the near future when it comes to video games. We seemingly have Fallout 5 towards the 2030s, as well as possibly an Obsidian-led Fallout game if we're lucky, but otherwise, it seems like nothing's on the way. And we understand that. We have the roadmap before us of Starfield coming out next year, and then we have Elder Scrolls 6 finally arriving, and we're going to be talking a lot about that in this video, where afterwards they'll cycle back to Fallout. And it presents a problem that we're all very well aware of now with Bethesda game studios, which is that there's going to be significant gaps in all now 3 of their major franchises, being Elder Scrolls, Starfield, and Fallout.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Gentlemen, when a woman talks about your balls, do you want them to think about this? No, you want to have the best possible Dragon Balls. So when you take your Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, you go up against it, you get something like this. You want ladies to think about this when it comes to your balls. And that's why I'm here to tell you all about Manscaped. Manscaped hooked me up with the Performance Package 4.0, coming with everything you need to take care of your below-the-waist grooming. Starting off with the Lawnmower 4.0, but I swear by the skin-safe technology on this thing, no more nicks, no more cuts. You are safe with the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. It also comes with a weed whacker for your nose and ear hair. Yeah, we gotta take care of everything even above the waist. Plus the Crop Preserver ball deodorant. Gotta make sure there's no stench down there once you're done shaving. Men, this is all about hygiene. We also have the Crop Reviver, which is a quick spray. Let's say you're on the fly, you need to get prepared for a pretty big night of action. Boom, one spray, you're good. As well as a magic mat so you can shave away and not worry about where the hair is gonna fall. And right now, customers will get their hands on the Shed, which is a travel bag, as well as briefs that I swear to God are the most comfortable things I have ever worn in my entire life. So if you want to take your Dragon Balls from this to this, you need to head over to manscaped.com/MrMatty right now. You can get 20% off your order plus free shipping at manscaped.com/MrMatty. Use the code MrMatty. While we have sat here and complained a lot about Fallout and the current state of affairs within its franchise, which I do believe is fair, we have to be honest with ourselves that Elder Scrolls fans arguably have it worse. And I'm going to highlight why, as well as what we always do, which is suggest potential solutions. For example, with Fallout, we suggested the minimal effort remasters all the way up to a brand new studio dedicated to handling the Fallout franchise called The Vault within Xbox Game Studios, where you have all these wonderful Fallout-focused minds within Xbox Game Studios, from Brian Fargo to Todd Howard to Fergus Urquhart, etc., etc. You know the whole list. All of them could serve in an executive producer role and help shepherd a new era of Fallout talent and help secure that franchise into the future. It's kind of similar to Vault-Tech's slogan, you know, prepare for the future, right? Anyway, we've talked about that a lot, but we're going to take that energy and really pour it into Elder Scrolls fans because they need some help here, and we got their back. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into Elder Scrolls content, we do talk about it whenever there is content, but yes, it is a wasteland out here, pardon the pun. And there is very little to talk about in the world of Elder Scrolls if you're not into online games. So we've got your backs. We're going to talk about all of that today. But if you're new here and you're into that type of content, consider subscribing. Let's get started. 2011. 2011 was the last time we saw a mainline entry in the Elder Scrolls franchise. It has been over a decade since we've seen a new entry in the Elder Scrolls series. That sucks. That is something that Fallout fans cannot relate to, no matter how much we want to act like we're really upset that we haven't seen a new entry. We did get Fallout 4 in 2015. We did get DLC in 2016. And as much as I like to pretend it doesn't exist, because quite frankly, I think the game is bad in a lot of areas, Fallout 76 did drop in 2018, and it does continue to be supported. Now, this is apparently Bethesda's business strategy. that they provided us the online product in Fallout 76 to be supported for years on end to feed Fallout fans looking for more Fallout in a live service manner, and they did the same for Elder Scrolls. They dropped Elder Scrolls Skyrim, they gave us DLC, they moved on, and quickly thereafter, we got Elder Scrolls Online, where at launch, it was a game that I thought had a lot of promise and potential, but was pretty boring. It took them about a year of ironing out the kinks until we got Tamriel Unlimited in 2015, a historic year for Bethesda, no doubt. And it was then and there that really, to me, symbolized the turnaround. Now, you can go ahead and look it up. I have defended Elder Scrolls Online for a long while. Now it's more accepted that it's a really good game. But from the get-go, I said, this has a lot of potential. I believe in it. This is why it's good. And I championed that game big time on my channel. However, why I never got around to talking about Elder Scrolls as much is because of that very belief that where Fallout fans got 76, which is, I think it's fair to say, one of the worst video games ever made in its launch state. You can argue now it's much better, and I'll totally hear that out. But if we're talking launch state, we got one of the worst games of all time in our series. Okay? That is pretty much a tough pill to swallow because it's very difficult to come back from that without having a goodwill product. Whereas with Elder Scrolls, in my eyes, you had Skyrim, one of the best open world games of all time, and then you got what I thought was the best MMO on the market over time in Elder Scrolls Online. It's continuously supported. I think the devs are really clued in on what makes a good Elder Scrolls game. And when you look at it one-to-one, I personally believe that Elder Scrolls Online emulates that single-player Elder Scrolls experience a little bit better than Fallout 76 tries to emulate its single-player counterpart. Both of them don't feel like the traditional experience in their respective franchises, okay? Certainly, I'd prefer another Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim-like experience over Elder Scrolls Online trying to be that, just like I'd prefer another Fallout 3, New Vegas, or 4 over 76 pretending it's that. It's like, it's frustrating as a player. You understand why it exists, but it's not what you want. And so that's why I took a while to get to this conversation, because I didn't think Elder Scrolls in some respects suffered as badly in the terms of quality of content. But the reality is this, just like many of us put our hands up and go, that ain't my Fallout when it comes to 76. Same thing for Elder Scrolls fans, even if that content is good. That's not my Elder Scrolls. I'm not into that type of stuff. I don't want to see 8 million people jumping around town half naked in these crazy mounts and outfits. I want to play a single-player Elder Scrolls game where I'm at the core of the universe. And I think where Bethesda dropped the ball here was not going outwards enough, because given their roadmap, which we got a much clearer picture of when they announced 76 and they said afterwards is Starfield and then afterwards is Elder Scrolls 6, they had to have known for a while, we're not going to be touching Elder Scrolls for some time. To me, the solution there is not to friggin' re-release Skyrim 8 times over with, you know, the special edition, the anniversary edition, and so on and so forth, and then put it on Switch and charge for that. There is a level of disrespect there, I think, towards your consumer base. They do know people will buy it. I mean, take one look at Fallout 4's next-gen update, which, at least on paper, has the same offering as what we're getting in Skyrim Anniversary Edition, and while the Creation Club content in Skyrim is much better, and it puts a lot more meat on the bones of Skyrim, the reality is that Bethesda is, again, on paper, charging for Skyrim while not charging for Fallout 4. And I think it's because they know there is a level of simping that will occur for Skyrim, and so they will happily make their money. But that is frustrating as an Elder Scrolls fan. And as someone who maybe has spent so much time away from it because I've been so heavily immersed in Fallout, it's easy to forget how special these games are. Especially because Skyrim has turned into a bit of a meme at this point in time. It can be easy to forget how special an Elder Scrolls experience is, which will work in Bethesda's favor come Elder Scrolls 6. But where I think they truly dropped the ball is spin-offs. Remember Elder Scrolls Legends? That kind of cheap cash-in on the Hearthstone mindset? That, in my opinion, cheap cash-in on the Hearthstone wave. I remember playing it, and I know they had the dual lanes, and it managed to separate itself in some ways, and it did focus a bit on story with some choices you can make in said story that would build your deck differently. There was a lot about Elder Scrolls Legends that was cool. But the problem, I think, with Elder Scrolls is as if they hit this mountaintop with Skyrim, and decided to take a monetization strategy approach to it with an online game and then an online card game, things that could generate cash quickly because Elder Scrolls. And also Elder Scrolls Blades, one of the most shameless cash grabs that followed up a wonderful, fair mobile game at the time in Fallout Shelter. It feels like Elder Scrolls was the indication that Bethesda lost their way a bit. And that was really upsetting because Skyrim, I think, embodies a lot of Bethesda's best qualities. Openness, freedom, diversifying builds, tons of interconnected environments, good RPG mechanics on the gameplay side of things. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying the story has tons of joys and consequences. It's funny how you have this one game in the center of what I think is kind of a mess for this franchise. And it shocks me that not once did it cross their mind to say, hey, let's outsource to an RTS studio a Tamriel War style game. Let's outsource a tactical RPG that focuses on a squadron of elves in Tamriel going throughout a big adventure. I don't know. There's a number of things they could do, especially I think that RTS idea is ripe for the picking, since with Fallout, the online mantra just doesn't fit given the nature of everyone's dead, the world has been nuked, why do we have 8 million players running around? In Elder Scrolls, it's a beaming world full of potential and excitement, but also a lot of darkness within it. And there were plenty of wars that you could explore with the RTS and a way to build out that lore. Like, I think that just makes too much sense to me. And much like I've tapped into Xbox with the ideas for Fallout, Xbox has wonderful RTS studios that they are partnered with for third-party projects, such as Minecraft Legends, all the way to ones in-house with the likes of Age of Empires 4. There are so many ways that they could tackle this and outsource this to someone to give them a new type of Elder Scrolls game. And you may be wondering why I haven't suggested, well, make another mainline Elder Scrolls game somewhere else. And I'm totally for that. It's just a little bit more difficult to suggest. Whereas with Fallout, it's easier because given that series history where it's been passed around between 3 developers, with Black Isle, which has now brought a lot of its talent to Obsidian. Obsidian had the Fallout franchise, and of course Bethesda owns it now. So it's been passed around a lot where there are multiple companies that have put their identity and their stamp on that world where it's easier to imagine it going other places. Bethesda could certainly surprise us, and I think they should take a page out of the CD Projekt Red handbook. In fact, I'd love to see CD Projekt Red actually make an Elder Scrolls game. That would be sick. But when you look at what CD Projekt Red is doing with The Witcher, and I know a lot of people are not big on CD Projekt Red right now, I never really lost a ton of faith in them. I think, Cyberpunk was a major misstep, but seeing how they've gradually come back and their plan for the future, what they're doing with The Witcher, I think is what Bethesda should be doing with both Fallout and Elder Scrolls. This commitment across multiple studios where, for Cyberpunk, for example, they're saying we're setting up a new studio in Boston, Massachusetts. We're going to spearhead a new sequel to Cyberpunk. Meanwhile, we have this other studio that's worked on indie projects, and they're going to make a new Witcher game. And then we have other mainline Witcher games in development. There is a way to take your portfolio, diversify it amongst multiple talented studios, and start to have some activity, right? Because there was a gap for The Witcher, where we got The Witcher 3, we got some fantastic expansions, we got that Hunter game on phones. I forgot what it's called, but it doesn't matter because I don't think it looks that great anyway. It looks like another Pokemon Go clone. And you also got Thronebreaker though. That's the difference between something like Elder Scrolls and something like The Witcher. You get a Thronebreaker in the Witcher series, which is not a traditional Witcher game. It takes the Gwent mechanics and turns it into almost a turn-based RPG. In some respects, it's one of the more creative RPGs I've seen, but it takes an existing set of mechanics and retools them. It's fascinating. So you get that as a bit of a holdover. And now we're getting all these other Witcher games. I just feel Bethesda needs to take a long, strong look at what's happening there and understand that there are studios out there making plans for their IP, for the future, for their consumers. There's a reason why CD Projekt Red is saying, hey, we're only committing to one Cyberpunk game right now versus multiple Witcher games. Why is that? It's because The Witcher is their cash cow. We saw how the player count rose with Netflix's The Witcher versus The Witcher 3, seeing player counts higher, by the way, than what we had actually seen at the launch of The Witcher 3, which is crazy. Same thing happened for Cyberpunk with the anime. So it seems like CD Projekt Red does have something cooking there. But my point being is that Elder Scrolls, in a lot of ways, I think is a cash cow as well. I do believe Fallout is the bigger cash cow, strictly because of Shelter, though. Fallout Shelter is a big differentiating factor. There's a reason why Elder Scrolls Blades exists, and it's because of Fallout Shelter's immense financial success. And I feel like they tried to take this Fallout monetization strategy and just paste it onto Elder Scrolls in reverse, and it doesn't fit. What Elder Scrolls needed was, I think, the Witcher treatment. Continue to have that main BGS team take their time on when they want to deliver ES6. They have certainly earned that much. Maybe by the time it comes out, we're talking 15 years. Maybe I would have liked it a little bit sooner than that. But content in between then and now. I think Elder Scrolls Online was a perfectly fine answer, but Bethesda really likes to plant their online flag and say, if you want more content for this franchise, you come here. They are not interested in this diverse catalog of titles available for you. And I find that fascinating because a company's goal is to grow. And planting your flag and saying it's ESO or nothing, or buy Skyrim again. And that's it. Maybe get into Elder Scrolls Blades. And that's it. Versus, well, we have an RTS here. We have an action RPG over here. Imagine that, like an action game for Elder Scrolls, like focused on combos I'm talking about, not where we get the kind of janky combat of Skyrim, but like a real DMC style game. I'm just spitballing at this point. I know that probably wouldn't fit, but my point here is diversifying that portfolio to pull in new fans for when the time comes for Elder Scrolls 6 that you pop off. It's the same thing with Fallout. Start making content now so you build that franchise, you bring in new fans from all angles, so when it's Fallout 5 or Obsidian's time, you pop off. I don't know why I got to explain this stuff, but it's frustrating to see the mishandling of both franchises, but specifically Elder Scrolls fans have had it bad because at least here as Fallout fans, we can say we got some games and we got some awful DLC for Fallout 76, which is a disrespect unto itself. But when it comes to something like Elder Scrolls, how many times has Skyrim been sold to us? We love Fallout 3, right? Imagine if Bethesda had sold to us Fallout 3 like 3-4 separate times. I know there's a group of us that wouldn't care. But there is a group of us that would get annoyed. Just like I've started to get annoyed that here we go again. Bethesda's doing the weirdest thing of all time with Skyrim. Now they're charging $70 on Switch. That's the first $70 game on Switch. Skyrim. They've really continued to push the needle way too far forward when all they had to do was start picking up the phone, making some calls, trying to strike some deals. Obviously, we don't live inside the building. We don't know what's happening if those calls have ever been made, but being a little more aggressive with them, saying like, hey, we wanted to make a spinoff. How do you feel about that? And start really generating some new ideas. So then when the time comes for Elder Scrolls 6, as I said again, pop off. But I think it's really unfortunate what's happened to both these franchises. I think they needed to be supported in a more intelligent way. And this monetization strategy, while smart for the business, it's not going to get hurt by offering the IP to other studios and investing in it further in new, unique ways. Especially because now both these titles, being Fallout and Elder Scrolls, are so big that they can help lift some of the marketing for these newer ideas, and it's not as risky of an investment that could sink you. Of course, there is the trust game of, will this new studio damage our IP with a game that they make that's not very good? But Bethesda's done that already with Elder Scrolls Legends, with Elder Scrolls Blade, with Fallout 76. Like, they've done this to themselves. So what is the big risk? If you tried it yourselves, you screwed it up. You can still do it. We believe in you. But I think others deserve a chance to help bring more content to that universe. So of course, I have a lot to say, and we'll continue this conversation as Bethesda continues to underdeliver. But thank you, Elder Scrolls fans, for your patience. I know I've talked about ES6 whenever it pops up, and we do circle around back to this conversation, but in all fairness, I should have had this talk much sooner, so I do apologize. With that, though, it's time for all of you to chime in. What do you think about the future of Elder Scrolls? Do let me know. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.